On this episode of Suddenly Single, we have the living legend, the amazing, magnanimous, generous, beautiful person, the one and only Christopher Biggins.
He's been married for 36 years, unlike you, me. And he's got 1,001 brilliant stories to tell.
Yeah, so stay with us and I'll tell you all.
Just wanna get out of here.
We have often said that we have a VIP on Suddenly Single, but we truly have a very important person here today. Christopher Biggins. Without Googling, are you Sir Christopher? Have you got OBE, CB at the end? What have you got? What's your official title?
I've got nothing.
I cannot believe that.
I know, nor can
really
I.
Cannot.
It's
That's
disgusting.
a permanent of the industry.
And then also, you know, I've been doing, I suppose I must have raised something like 50 million over the years.
Yeah, for charities.
And for charities. And, you know, not individually. No, I mean, but I've all contributed to what they've earned.
Yeah.
And it's a who you know, I think.
But you know everybody. That's the first thing
I know, but
say.
I don't know those idiots who give out the honours.
Stop calling them idiots. That's the first thing.
Yes.
Would you accept it? Because some people that are very well known say, I don't think I should have that. But would you have a CBE or an OBE?
I would love it, and I would be honoured to receive it. It would be fantastic.
Well, let's start the campaign right here. Because
we need to pull out the paperwork.
Last time, courtesy of you, that I saw you was at Buckingham Palace.
That's right.
With your
Was that the time I didn't turn up?
No, you were at I think you were at that one, but you were running around entertaining people. And you were with, and I have to say that I know Neil from many years ago. Your husband, what's the right?
Well, I am actually an old-fashioned gay person. I don't like the word husband. Mm-hmm. I prefer partner. But funnily enough, we've started to use it recently. And I don't know. I'm the gay community hate me because I'm anti that. I'm also anti men having children because I think that there should be a woman in a man and a woman to bring up a child. I think that's quite important. And fair enough. If people want to do that, that's fine. I'm very selfish. And I don't want to have children running around me. I'm not that sort of person. I don't think Neil really is. And so we're very happy what we're doing now. It's good.
Neil is a great person in his own right and had his own career with British Airways. He's now retired.
Yeah.
What is a normal day for Christopher Biggins and Neil when you wake up in the morning?
Well, wake up in the morning, I'm usually the first up because Neil is, I think it's to do with the British Airways, when he used to come back from flights and be exhausted. So he is very much a late night person. Like I'll go to bed about, about 1 o'clock. Neil will go to bed about 3. And what happens, I think sometimes...
You're partying every night.
What?
You're partying every night.
No, this is at home.
Just sitting there
Just
till
sitting
3.
there watching the television. I absolutely adore television. I'm television mad. I love everything. Well, not everything, but I really enjoy watching television. And we eat late, which is, of course, ridiculously bad. So anyway, I go to bed about 1. Neil comes to bed about 3, having fallen asleep in the very comfortable chairs we have in the kitchen. So then he gets up late, and I get up about 9, have breakfast, and then Neil gets up about 12 sometimes. Wow. And then we start our day. We either go out. As I'm getting older, I can't do 2 things in one day. I mean, it now is either lunch or dinner or staying in, which we loved staying in. I mean, I love staying in.
But you're prolifically still busy with your career, though, aren't you? You're
doing
various... Do you still do panto?
I do. At 76 years old, which I'm very proud and can't believe that I'm 76. I mean, where have those years gone?
Look it.
Oh, you are sweet. I did pantomime and Woking, which I loved. We do 12 a day. 12 a week.
Feels like it, yeah.
12 a week.
Yeah, okay.
And but my producer, Michael Harrison, is very kind to me now. And having years and years of doing pantomime dame, I now play the Spirit of Dreams or characters like that. And he allows me to be flown in on a moon. And I get flown in and flown out. But I do a sort of 10-minute section where I play the dame, and I change 6 times in that.
That's a bit mini workout.
And it's so funny. At the end, the final outfit, they're all pantomime dames. In the final outfit, I come on as Pamela Anderson in a red swimsuit, and it brings the house down. I mean, it really does. But having seen Pamela Anderson recently, because of course she's here in London to promote her new film, the Showgirl, in Las Vegas. And seeing her, she looks extraordinary, actually. She doesn't wear any makeup.
It's a new look.
Is it a new look?
No makeup. She's one of the leaders of it. I think she looks amazing without it.
She does look, but she looks so different.
Yeah.
I don't think she looks as good as when she's got makeup on.
No, I don't.
No,
I agree.
No. It's the
You
Emperor's
see, I
New
think you
Clothes
should wear
when you say.
makeup too.
Me?
Yeah.
There's no time.
He was talking to me. He was talking to me.
You're always in makeup.
Yes, there's no time because I'm always in the makeup chair.
I try, but
Can we go back, because Neil, who has had more name checks than most people in our podcast, how did you meet him? How did that come about? And it was 25, 30 years ago?
No, it was about 36 years ago, I think it was. I met him. I was doing a pantomime in Glasgow, and Neil is Glaswegian. He comes from Greenock. And so we met in a nightclub, because in those days, 36 years ago, I was young and was able to go to nightclubs after a performance. Nowadays, the best I can do is go to bed after a performance. But so we met in a nightclub and we had a fling. And I was already involved with someone else in London. And so it sort of finished, except I did see him occasionally because he was so nice. And then it really finished. And about 6 years later, I'm on a flight back from Barbados. I was artistic director of a Shakespeare and opera
the Derek
season.
Nimmo
No. Well, no, similar, funny enough. But it was independent to Derek Nimmo. And I was artistic director of the Shakespeare and opera season they had there. Instigated by Richard Handon and the Bamfords, you know, JCB?
Yeah,
Okay.
well, yeah.
And who are great friends. And so we met.
Is he working on the flight?
No, he wasn't. But a girlfriend of his was working on a colleague was working on the flight, and she upgraded me to club class, which was very nice. And then she said, "We have a mutual friend." So I said, "Who's that?" She said, "Neil Sinclair." I said, "Oh, how is he?" And she said, "He's terrific." And so I said, "Would you give him my number?" And he rang me, and we met on Valentine's Day, and we were together ever since.
Oh, wow.
oh, that's really romantic.
Oh, no, and he is just the best person.
What makes it work 36 years later?
Laughter.
Really?
Yeah,
Agree.
without
Really?
any doubt. I mean, we'll have a row, and we certainly row, you know, we scream.
Yeah.
And because I'm an actor, I have a strong voice.
Yeah.
And he's always saying, "Don't shout at me." I said, "I'm not shouting, it's just me." You know, and then we laugh, and then we laugh all the time, and it's just marvellous. And he's a very good... He should have been an actor, but his mother wouldn't allow him to go to a college. But he is good mimic. You know, he can take people off, and he's always repeating rather well a commercial that was on television, which is really bad. And
Has the dynamics changed over 36 years? Because I met you probably 30 odd years ago, and you were doing everything and continue to do stuff, but at that particular point, everything from surprise to prize to hosting your own shows, doing very long panto runs, popping up in adverts, and you were all everywhere all the time. And he must have had to adapt around that kind of lifestyle, and that's changed a bit now because you don't take every job.
No, that's true. But in fact, what I think I did with him, which I think was very clever, is we'd go out to a party, and many parties we've been to, as you can imagine, and I wouldn't mollycoddle him. Is it mollycoddle?
Yeah,
Mollycoddle.
Yeah,
Coddle, yeah.
That's right. I would let him. We'd go in, and I would go one way, and I'd make him go the other way. And sometimes he would come out, and he said, "I've been invited to the Countess of Liverpool's for tea." I said, "Good, that's marvellous." And to begin with, he was very shy. He really was not embarrassed, but, you know, wary of going to parties like that. Now, I have to pull him away.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I want to go home to bed, and he wants to party on. He loves the party. So, you know, he's amazing how he's developed as a person, I think, and I've seen that.
I'm intrigued to know, because you are the doyen of pantos. You've done, I don't know, 30, 35, 40 pantos?
No, I've done more than that. I started in 1976, I think it was.
So 40 odd?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's 40 odd. And
40.
I've only missed one, which was the year that I won the Jungle.
Going back in the time machine a little bit further back, you were, before Neil and earlier on in your career, you were married to a lady. How did that come about? And
B. Aston.
isn't it?
That was her name.
Oh, that's sorry. I thought you were swearing. How did that come about? And was that an arrangement of love, or
We did a show together, B and I, called The Owl and the Pussycat Went to Sea, S-E-E ... written by David Wood. And I played Head Jumbly, and she played Jumbly Girl. And we were great friends, and she had a friend in Willie Rushton. Do you remember Willie Rushton?
Yeah.
And he was marvellous, and his wife was wonderful, and we all were we used to go out all the time. And she was Australian, B. She then went back to Australia, and I think she's still with us. But when I won the Jungle, the press had a field day, and they tried to harass her and get her to tell stories, and she wasn't very happy about that, I think. But anyway, that was that story.
And you are still friends?
Well, no, we're not, because it's very complicated knowing someone still in Australia. You know, you've got to go over there. As much as I love Australia, it's not worked out. But I must make some inquiries, actually, because I hope she is still with us.
well, we've got to start your OBE CBE campaign today.
Yeah, and find
Get
B.
in touch
Find
with your
B.
wife.
Yeah.
Find B. Where do you stand on people having affairs? Is that the end of a marriage? Is it over? If somebody's cheated, you can't go back. Is it different for men to women? Where do you stand? Because you've got a wealth of experience at the coalface of love.
Yes, I don't know whether I was promiscuous, but in the early days of my life, I didn't know about being gay until I was about 18 years old. And it was an extraordinary experience.
What do you mean you didn't know about it?
Well, I didn't know about being gay. I didn't know that men went with each other.
Oh, I see.
Or, they fell
But
in
you
love.
knew you liked guys.
No, because I like everybody. I mean,
you were
most
just
of my
friendly.
friends are women.
Oh.
And, but I didn't realise, I mean, when I was I left school at 16 and a half, and I went to Salisbury Rep, and I was a student ASM, assistant stage manager. And I remember I used to go around and make sure the props were all set, especially in dressing rooms. And I went in, and in those days, the etiquette wasn't very good. And I opened a door of a dressing room, and there were two men and I was...
And that was the first time you realised that happened?
Yeah, and I thought, my
Marvellous.
God, what are they doing? Is it sort of a sort of pre-thing before going on
Just to
to...
warm your voice.
Yeah, is it a warm-up? Exactly.
It's exercise.
So, I mean,
Didn't happen at the RSC.
I did know that there were certain things going on, but I didn't practice it really until I went to drama school.
Okay.
And then that was when I was 18 when I went to drama school, and it was quite funny actually because there was an actor there who wasn't a very good actor, but he was a wonderful, wonderful man, and became a really good friend. And he fell in love with another student who was a wonderful actress, and he asked me to be his best man at his wedding. And then I went on their honeymoon, and surprise, surprise, a year later they separated. And I wonder why. I mean, we went in his Citroen 2CV to Spain for a holiday, and I sat in the back of the car, and we had the roof down. And when I got to Spain, I couldn't move. I was absolutely burnt to a cinder.
Oh, no.
So they spent the whole of their honeymoon looking after me, rubbing on oils and things and creams.
Calamine creams.
And he went on to win an Oscar.
Who was it?
Jeremy Irons.
Jeremy Irons. Wow. So he was a luminary at your drama
Yeah,
school.
and he was wonderful. We had so much fun. He was absolutely brilliant.
Are you still
He's
in
married
touch
to
with him?
Yeah, we
Sinead
are.
Cusack, isn't he?
He's married to... Well, funny enough, I introduced him to Sinead Cusack because I did a show in the West End called London Assurance, and she took over from Judi Dench.
Okay.
And the other theatre, but which backed onto our theatre, there was a show called Godspell, which Jeremy was starring in.
Oh, fantastic.
So
Is that
I
the one that has nudity? No.
No, that was Hair.
Hair, okay.
And so I introduced them, and then they're very happily married, and they've got two sons.
One of them
but
is
Max,
famous, isn't he, Max?
Yes, who is doing very well.
Another one of your many very famous friends is Joan Collins,
Yes.
who famously has a much younger husband. And you obviously know them very well. How does the dynamics work of that? Is it just love and it works irrespective of anything else?
My favourite story about Joan. Joan is one of the wittiest, funniest women I've ever met. I mean, she's extraordinary. And I remember when she was getting married and it was announced, and they say, the press said, what do you think about marrying a younger man? She said, well, if he dies, he dies, which is, a classic remark. And she is
Joan.
very, very witty. I mean, she's in Los Angeles at the moment, comes back very soon, and I can't wait to see her. She is absolutely phenomenal.
Is it the fact that her energy is up there and her wit and her intellect is still so sharp that it transcends her age?
Yeah, without any doubt. I mean, she hates being called an age, and I couldn't agree more. I think people shouldn't. You should, call people what they look like, or why do you have to call them anything? Just ignore the fact that they're a certain age.
I think some people just stand out because they are the top of their game. Like we were saying earlier, whether you're a sportsman, you might not like football, but you can name the best ones.
Absolutely.
You can name the best actresses, like Joan. You can name the best comedians. You can name the really good people in whatever they do.
I acted with Lauren Bacall.
No.
Yeah, I did.
She's tough.
Yeah, well, Humphrey
Yeah.
Bogart.
well,
Where did you do with her, then?
well,
Was that
she-
in
You want to
Hollywood
be
or
bossed
No,
around,
in this
really.
country. She did a musical at the Her Majesty's Theatre, and they decided to make it was called Applause, and they decided to make a TV series of it, not a TV production of it. So I was cast as a friend in the dressing room. And I had to say, Margot, you were divine. That's all I had to say. And so we were all on the set. All the extras were, everybody on the set in this particular scene. And we were there at 6 a.m. And, and then suddenly we got a message through. It was 9 o'clock. She's got up. She's in the hotel and she's got up. At 10 o'clock, she's having breakfast.
And you're all in costume.
you're just
All in costume,
waiting.
waiting there. 11 o'clock, she's in a terrible mood.
This is how we talk about you on the
Yes, exactly. He's on his way in. He's on the
Coming, he's
district
coming.
line.
The mood
He's
is
so
not
bad.
good.
So what time did you start?
So midday. She arrived at midday, and she came on set, and she was wearing a dressing gown, and she was introduced, and she was enchanting. And she sat next to me, and we just went through the lines. That was fine. And she said, "Do you want to see something sexy?" So I said, "Yes, I'd love to." She said, "Well, look at this." And she whisked back her dressing gown, and she had a huge bandage on her knee, and she'd fallen the night before in the show, and they had to bandage her up. And I must say, she was absolutely wonderful. It was a real pleasure to have worked with someone like that. And of course, Humphrey Bogart,
Yeah. So who would you, in your experience, cite as a beautiful couple that epitomised romance and glamour? Because you've got everybody from Lauren Bacall right through to David Niven or Cary Grant. Or
Well, I always thought that
You're good friends with Anthony Andrews.
Yes.
Brideshead Revisited.
Yeah.
Very good looking
Him and
man.
Jeremy Irons.
Yeah, I
God,
know.
They were
They
so
were
beautiful.
absolutely wonderful
and
together.
Teddy.
Yes, Teddy.
Yeah.
No, well, I think you have to think about the fact. I mean, I knew Diana, Princess Diana, quite well, and I think to begin with, her marriage to Charles. I remember Richard Poler, who owned Joe Allen's, was a friend of the manager of the Savoy, and he invited us, a group of about 10 of us, to go and have drinks and lunch rather, at the Savoy on the day of the wedding. So she drove past in an open carriage, which we just looked at, and it was amazing. And then we saw them go back again. So it was a very romantic time.
Yeah.
And I think that I've always said this about Diana. I think her biggest mistake, and she made lots of mistakes, but her first biggest mistake was falling in love with her husband.
Really?
And
So you think she genuinely was in love with him?
I think
with-
absolutely she was.
doubt. I mean, you could see in her face. And I was a great friend of Liza Minnelli's, and
She had several interesting
she
relationships.
did.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about them? No. Anyway, so
Back
what
to Diana.
happened was that Liza rang me, and she was doing a wonderful show at the Albert Hall, which was a one-woman show, but she used women in the audience who were planted. And so one day she rang me and she said, look, can you come in tonight and take a friend of mine to the theatre to see the show? So I said, of course. I went, and we were in the dressing room laughing and having a good time. And the door, I didn't know who the person was, and the door knocked, and I went and opened it, and there was my date, Princess Diana.
Oh, wow.
And she was enchanting. And I've met her a few times before, but this was very special. So we had to wait at the side of the stage before we went to our front row seats, because they said people will just go mad if they see her. And so we were waiting there for the lights to go down, and I said, I've just seen that wonderful picture of you on Britannia with your kneeling down, your arms wide open, and your boys running towards you. And she said, you've got to remember, they're the most important things in my life. And it's remained with me as the most amazing statement. Of course, they were.
They were.
You know, and even when she was with Dodie, which was, I'm sure, just having a fun summer and letting her hair down, she wasn't going to stay with him. She was, you know, and it was so unfortunate. It was, yes, it was a fling. Because she wouldn't do that to the royal family. I mean, you know, Philip hated...
Really?
Well, Philip hated Mohammed Al Fayed. I mean, you know, it was...
She wasn't lashing out to punch them on the nose like they were trying to with her.
No, I don't think so. I think she was just having fun. And he was, you know, a fun person to be with, I believe.
Yeah. Just wanna get out of here.
Right, now this is called the Goldfish Bowl of Truth. We have...
It's Tim's proudest moment.
My God. So if you'd like to take one question out,
invented
we'll
this
answer
game.
as well. There should be one for you.
Let me go to the bottom, see if I can find
whoever it
something
is. And
different.
If you can't read it, we'll read it
Yeah,
for
it's
you.
my writing, and
Oh.
I'm afraid it's very, very poor. And I'm going to swap mine because
Can you laugh someone into bed? Can you charm somebody
I
into
bet
bed?
you
Or did
can.
you used to charm somebody
Yes,
into bed?
I
when you
mean,
could?
we were talking earlier about Joe Allen's, and when Joe Allen's first opened, this is a restaurant in Covent Garden, and owned by a man called Richard Polo, and there was a man called Joe Allen who became good friends with mine. And up until that moment, I always thought that restaurants were when you went to when you were hungry. I had no idea you went to have a good time and socialise. It was a revelation to me. So Joe Allen's changed my life. So I used to go there all the time. I met the man who owned it. I was always there, and the only people I met were waiters. So I had about 500 affairs with waiters. And yet laughter is a great way to get people into bed without any question.
That's where we're going wrong.
Well, I've been laughed into bed. I don't know if I could laugh anyone into bed. I'm not very funny.
I've been laughed at in bed.
Yeah, that's
When you're
not
completely
the
different.
look
When you take your
want.
underwear off.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly.
Is it your turn?
Okay, what is your go-to romantic music? I don't know. I like a bit of Barry White, a bit of Luther Vandross, and I will be honest, jazz.
Yeah. You're looking at
I like Gregory Porter, and also a bit of Donny Osmond if I'm in the right mood.
Well,
but
doesn't-
I usually play that when I'm by myself.
You're on your own, all by yourself.
I like Frank Sinatra, and I had the privilege of meeting Frank Sinatra,
No.
having dinner with him.
No.
In Los Angeles. I was staying with Dame Joan, and there was a couple called Barbara and Marvin Davis who were billionaires. He had an oil company, and also he owned Paramount Film Company. And so Barbara Davis, I'd met at various parties and things. And anyway, one day she rang me at Jones. She said, Christopher, we're having a 97th birthday party for George Burns. Now, George Burns, the comedian.
Wow.
Would you like to come? So I said, I'd love to come. So I was so excited, I can't tell you. So we went off to this party, and they held it in the foyer of their home. And there were 400 of us sitting down to dinner in the foyer of this house. I mean, you've never seen anything like it. And there was the Michael Caine table. There was the Joan Collins table, the Jackie Collins table. There was Sidney Poitier's table. Every table had... I mean, it was unbelievable. I sat on the hostess's table, and there was me, Shakira Caine, who I knew really well, and Frank Sinatra, our hostess, and George Burns, whose party it was, a woman, Sid Lawrence of Sid Lawrence and Didi Gourmet, and Dan Aykroyd. And Dan Aykroyd said to me,
wow.
Biggins, pinch yourself. You don't often get nights like this. So I thought, well, it's wonderful, George Burns, but if my mother could see me one away from Frank Sinatra, she wouldn't believe it. So anyway, I called him Sir, and I called him Mr. Sinatra, and eventually he said, Christopher, call me Frank. So I said, I can't let this moment go by. So I said, Frank, about 8 years ago in London, I played Nathan Detroit in Guys and Dolls. And he said, do you know, Christopher, so did I. And I thought, this is it now. I could die and go to heaven. And then he asked me to go in. When the dinner finished, he asked me to go in the corridor with him. I thought, he's going to shoot me. And in fact,
he's going to kiss you.
No, I wish. Anyway, he was quite old by then, and his wife wouldn't allow him to smoke, and he wanted to smoke. So I had to guard the corridor with him, and we chat, and it was just unbelievable.
How fantastic.
Yeah, it really was.
And he's a romantic guy, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think he was. Yeah. I think he was also a bit of a, what's the word? 'Cause I think he had a lot of women, didn't he? I mean...
Yeah, I mean, who knows the truth?
Yeah, but he was very loyal. Very loyal to his friends. Right, did we do what was your one?
What gives you the ick?
Yeah, that means well, you've been with Neil for 36 years now, so probably nothing. But what is it when you see somebody or you meet someone that you go, oh, you know what, actually, I can't do that with you? Like, for me, and it's similar for you, isn't it? If someone is super keen, I don't want to see them. I can't bear it. Like, I've just met you. Don't ring me while I'm getting in the car. Give it a few days.
Or it could be somebody that wolfs their food down or burps or has bad BO.
Well, I think it's because I'm an actor that my one big thing is people who keep me late. I mean, it's a really...
Sorry about that.
But it is a terrible thing, I think. I mean, being a professional actor, you have to be at the right time, in the right place. I mean, for instance, in theatre, there's the half, which is 35 minutes before the curtain goes up. Then there's the quarter, which is 20 minutes. Then there's the 5, which is 10. And you have to be there during that period.
Right.
Now, I did, with David Hasselhoff, a pantomime in Southend.
Okay.
And I adored him. He was a lovely, lovely man. He was playing Captain Hook, and he would come in way after beginners. When we were going on stage, and often he would go on without his hook, and I loved him. And he had a girlfriend who I think he's married to now, and it was my birthday, and she went out and bought me a present, and he came down at my dressing room, and absolutely, where's that present? Because she went to Poundland. And bought me a present.
Was embarrassed of
He
it?
was so embarrassed.
Oh, bless
He said,
him.
I've got something for you, which I'll get from America. And indeed, it arrived. And what it is, in Baywatch, when they had that red life-saving thing.
Yes, yes.
That shape, that sort of oval
like
shape.
a life buoy thing.
Yeah, that's right. And he gave me that, and he signed it, which I still have in my garage.
Wow.
And I mean, he was a lovely, lovely man. He really was.
That's probably worth quite a bit.
I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
And on that bombshell, Christopher Biggins, Sir Christopher Biggins, OBE, CBE, AD, thank you so much for
Thank
coming
you.
in. I
It's a
think we should do
pleasure.
another Suddenly Sing with you at some point.
Yeah, I'm coming up, I'm coming up.
Coming up on the next Suddenly Single, all-round entertainer, comedian and happily married for 25 years, Helen Lederer.
Nothing